Hi, I'm Sam, and welcome to the horror show. This is week 6, and of course, last week we did Night of the Living Dead. This week, of course, we're doing 1978's Dawn of the Dead. There's like 3 or 4 versions of this movie out there. There's the unrated, the theatrical, and the Italian. And there's another one, I think. I might be mistaken, though. George Romero directed this movie. Ken Foree plays Peter, Scott Reiniger plays Roger, Gaylen Ross plays Francine, and David Emge plays Stephen. And the synopsis of the movie is during an escalating zombie epidemic, 2 Philly SWAT team members, Peter and Roger, a traffic reporter, Stephen, and his TV executive girlfriend, Francine, seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall. And it's basically, they find this mall and there's zombies in it, but they're like, hey, maybe we could, make this home, And they ultimately do. IMDb has this movie as a 7.8 out of 10. About roughly 132,000 people voted. So let's start my rating, and I'll talk more about the story as we go along. The story for me is an 8 out of 10. It's simple, but then again, like last time, I'm like, it's just because it's simple doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. Although I'm also kind of like, it could be simple, but I mean, life sometimes is simple. And as long as you have really good moments, which I think this movie does have really good moments, then you should be fine. Moral is 7 out of 10. It's kind of the same thing as the last time. That being, there's zombies, and that's the bad, the evil, but it's not put as a supernatural kind of good versus evil. It's just a more like, I guess, an evolutionary good versus evil. That being, what's good for humanity, not zombies. Music is a 9 out of 10. So I guess this is where I could start kind of going into the backstory of the movie. So George makes Night of the Living Dead, and it becomes a hit. Well, not really. It's not really huge over here, but it ends up being huge in France, and it finds its way over to Italy. And Dario Argento is like, hey, I really liked your movie. You should make another one. You should come here in Italy and write a script. Or Rome. Yeah, same thing. And George goes out there. I'm not sure when exactly. This is like early 70s, maybe mid 70s. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, George goes to Rome and writes the script, and once he makes the script, he goes back to the States and starts filming. Which in the mall he could only do like nighttime. That's the only time they could film. They could only film it at nighttime, because of course it's a mall, it's busy. You can't just be during the day. Which, it's like they sometimes use during the day shots, but it's like an area of the store probably that was like, yeah, let's just not, people can't come over here kind of thing. So the music, Goblin does the soundtrack. Or it's a mix. It's Goblin. Which version do you want to go watch? It's a mix of Goblin and then what George wanted in as music. That being, free music he could use. There's a term, I just forget it. Maybe I'll remember later and then I'll have to blurt it out. But he wanted to use free music because that's what they did for the first movie. And it kind of gave Night, a kind of vibe with the movie. And it does the same kind of thing, except I kind of think a little better. Or at the very least, a little more in tone with what the movie's trying to be, I suppose. Because it was pretty good for Night, but like for Night, you can't like use that soundtrack for like Dawn, or it would feel a little different. The movie itself would probably have to be a bit different too. But yeah, Goblin's an Italian band who do soundtracks mostly. So they did Dawn of the Dead. It was pretty good. I say pretty good. I give it a 9 out of 10. It's really good. Cheese is a 3. I'm starting to kind of think maybe how I should go about cheese, because like when I do this, cheese really puts a damper on the whole thing. But it's like, it's not, it wasn't, the intention was 0 is like when you start going in negative, that's where it's like not good. So I'm thinking maybe how I go about it, if cheese is like 10, then it's like no cheese, or if there is cheese, it's fine, it's good, it's fitting. But then the lower it is, the worse it is, kind of thing. Because that's just the only way I think I could really go about this a little better. We'll start doing that next week, but yeah, I just hate putting 3 at cheese, and it just like doesn't really make much sense to me. Gold is a 10. Because there's a lot of great moments in this movie, whether it's a zombie kill, or it's just a moment, or if it's a scene, or if it's even a shot. There's just so much good in this movie, I think. And, which version do you want to go watch? So much. If you go watch the theatrical, you might miss out a little bit, because there's some scenes that aren't really in there that would be elsewhere. Humanity is a 9 out of 10. The kind of idea of this movie, which isn't like, it's not really huge, but it's, the idea is consumerism. Consumerism. Which, when you're watching the movie, isn't really, like, fitting until near the end of the movie, I guess. So, they get to the mall, and they're like, hey, maybe we could do something here, and they start kind of exploring, and they start killing the zombies, and by the time all the zombies are dead, it's just a clean house, and, they're able to start living like kings now, and then they start, that's when they start, doing X, Y, and Z, and, yeah. That's when they start kind of, the whole idea of consumerism, and then, of course, later on in the movie, near the ending, I'll get to it a little bit, but it expounds a little more in the ending. But it's like, if there's a zombie apocalypse and you find a mall, and you're able to take care of all the zombies if there are any zombies in there, like, that's your kingdom now, That's your castle. And so it's like, I think anyone, for the most part, would find themselves in that situation. It's kind of funny, just, this is, like, supposed to take place in, like, 68 or whatever. It's filmed in 78. Or it comes out in 78. And it's like, when there's nothing better to do, you go play a video game. Or do, that kind of thing. And it's like, you're wasting your time, but like, what? Why are you wasting time? Because there's nothing better to do. Okay. I'm sure there is. But it's just funny that, it's like, what people do nowadays. Except it's like, people just do it nowadays just because. It's interesting. I probably just said a whole lot of, like, nothing right there. But, it's fine. The ending is a 10 out of 10 for me. So, they clean house, and they're living like kings, and Steven is teaching Francine how to use the helicopter, and I forgot to mention, they have a helicopter. That's how they got to the mall. That's how they were able to get in the mall and whatnot. They just landed on the roof. Anyway, there's this biker gang that notices this, and they're like, hey, we want to join in on the fun. And so later that night, they break in, and they start tearing the place apart. And that's when you start kind of seeing, say, Steven being like, hey, this is ours, this is ours. It's very selfish a little bit, but, I get it. Anyone would probably be like that. Well, not anyone, because there's, like, 2 people on the floor fighting. Yeah, I skipped over something. It's Steven and Peter on the floor fighting. It's, Roger could have been there, but he was stupid earlier in the movie, and he's dead now, so, sucks for Roger. I kind of liked his character. It's just, it's just that cockiness gets you, I guess. But yeah, after the biker raid, Steven ends up getting it, and he dies. He gets shot a couple of times, and then zombies come and finish him off, roughly. Anyway, Peter's fine. Peter's able to get back up. Francine's just hanging out in the main room next to the roof. And after all the, hell that had happened, it's basically Peter and Francine left. Some dead bikers that the zombies are eating, of course, but, anyway. Maybe, just some, Tom Savini guy in the pool dead. Machete guy, Then when the ending starts kind of going in that's interesting. When Steven comes to as a zombie, he starts remembering stuff. See, there's this wall that they built earlier to hide that there's a hallway that leads straight to the room. And Steven remembers, his primal mind still remembers that, hey, there's this wall. So he leads a bunch of zombies and they break through there. And so they get to the main room and he's the first one there, and Francine sees him and Peter shoots him and kills him. And Peter tells Francine to leave, to get out. Peter doesn't want to leave, so Francine gets up and gets out, goes to the helicopter, starts it up, and Peter goes in a room and is about to kill himself. And one thing that was really interesting about this ending is that George Romero wanted this ending. I'm pretty confident about this that I could say it. Originally wanted this to be a really sad ending, that being Peter kills himself and then Francine kills herself by, say, starting the helicopter and then just lifting her head above the so her head just gets chopped off or whatever. But he ended up changing it, and so the ending that we did get is both of them choosing life over death. Peter doesn't kill himself, and she gets back in the helicopter. She's about to fly away, but there's Peter trying to get to the helicopter, and Peter ultimately does make it to the helicopter, and they fly off into the sunset, roughly. It's, I suppose you put it like that, it's a bit silly. But I think it's a 10 out of 10 because all the, the whole biker gang, to Steven, to the zombies breaking through, and to them choosing life over death. There's a lot of mystery in life. Like, where are you gonna go? Life may look bad or look bad, but look bad or look bad. Yeah. It could be down. It could just be the worst thing ever, but you don't know what tomorrow lies. You don't know what a week lies from now, There's still so much time, or at least one would hope anyway. So I think it's a really positive message that instead of choosing to end it all, they both chose to fight and survive, and they both make it out of there. Now, how did their story end? Who knows? Do they make it to a better place? Who knows? Do they crash and burn? Who knows? Although, in my thought process, there's providence, and so when something happens, it happens for a reason. So they're able to get out of there. They found a place, and it's just, is it a good place for the moment, or is it does something bad happen later on down the line, or because it's if it's they go and crash and burn somewhere, that's just awful. They might as well have killed themselves in the mall. So for me, I gave it an 8 out of 10. So IMDb was 7.8, I'm 8, so I think this movie is better than most IMDb people, so they could suck it, I guess. But yeah. I think, so, I've never seen, or never truly watched Diary of the Dead. That's gonna be, I guess, a couple of weeks from now. I fell asleep to it once, but out of all the ones I have seen, either Dawn or next week's one is my favorite one. And it's almost always like that. It's either Dawn's number 1 and then Day's number 2, or it's the other way around. It's just, I guess, depending on how I'm feeling, because, they're both of the dead, but kind of different feelings when you go and watch it. What the movie's trying to go about, or the survivors and the characters, they do feel a bit different. and just think it's interesting. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say about it. Should you watch it? I think so. Well, where can you watch it? There's a couple of versions of the movie on YouTube. The Ultimate Edition, you know, it's like 2 hours and like 10 minutes or whatever. That's on YouTube. I'm sure there's another version or two on YouTube. But yeah, I'm Sam. This is the horror show. I did Dawn of the Dead. And I thought it was really good. Like, I say really good. It's a great movie. Should you watch it? Yes. Should you watch it right now? I don't know, because, you know, you might be busy. But, if you're able to, you should watch it. I'll see y'all next week. Next week's gonna be day. And, yeah, I guess one more thing. I don't really like going and being, like, go like, sub, comment, you know, whatever. Because, you know, that's just, I don't want to have to be like, do it. But I guess, here's my thought. Hey, how about this? You like the video, that'd be really greatly appreciated. You could comment, maybe tell me your thoughts about Dawn of the Dead or the zombie movies or whatever, and maybe if there's a movie you want me to do for random movie review that's like not a part of a franchise, that's like an individual, or maybe there's a sequel but it's like just those two movies, just, you know, comment down below and let me know, and I'll get right to it, or I'd try to anyway. I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.